we're a little bit tougher down there, so they didn't give us a 9mm, they just gave us a long knife. So from Alice Springs going across to the top part of Broome, it's about 400 nautical miles with nothing. And yeah, you got to take some water and a big knife. That's it.
Welcome to Hangar X Studios, where former fighter pilot and host John Ramstead takes us on a journey across aerospace as it enters an historic period of innovation and transformation. Our guests include aviation experts, pilots, financiers, military leaders, and innovators of all types. Buckle up for another episode of Hangar X.
Today's episode is brought to you by our platinum sponsor, XTI Aerospace. They are powering the vertical economy, building a long-range VTOL, and you can find more at xtiaerospace.com. Now, please remember to like, comment, and share on this channel, and enjoy today's podcast. Welcome to the Hangar X Studios, and we are live at Verticon, and this is the place where disruptors and innovators and thought leaders across vertical aviation are coming, and we're going to get to hear the news before the rest of the world. And today we have on Rob Bentley Johnston. Rob, first of all, welcome to the podcast.
Great to be here. Thanks for having us.
And you're with HELIFLITE Australia, and I've been to Australia with the military a number of times, with the Sydney and Perth and Darwin, and I got some interesting stories about Darwin. But first of all, I'd love to hear about kind of HELIFLITE and what is happening in the helicopter world across Australia, because you guys really have your finger on the pulse there.
Definitely. That's our key market, and where I've been working for 15 years in that particular space. So myself, I've come from a flight line background. So HeliFlight, we've been distributors for Robinson Helicopters for nearly 50 years, one of the first dealers in the world. And where we see the market in aviation, that vertical platform, something that we've been across for that period in detail. So my 15 years of experience within the company itself, along with time in aviation before that. So to give a quick background of the few thousand hours I've got, that's from a flight training side, again, flying across Australia. Keen to hear your horse stories and how that integrates with flying across Australia with maybe some legal or illegal items on board. Thankfully, all of mine have been legal. I can admit that here in this public space.
Fixed wing or helicopter or both?
All fixed wing. That's okay. Sorry, Chris, all helicopter. I've never had any desire to get into the fixed wing space. It's always been helicopter for me from the beginning, which that's one of the areas that we're interested to expand in, how the longer range fixed wing component will link in with that vertical component too. So that's a space that we're excited about.
And, we just had David Smith on, the CEO of Robinson. It was a fascinating interview, especially talking about kind of their vision. But I got to tell you the quick story of Darwin. We were actually going into the Persian Gulf, and we were going to go do a bilateral exercise in the Darwin ranges with the Royal Australian Air Force. And they tell us we had to pack a 9mm pistol to fly over Darwin, because if we eject everything out, there's no humans. So if you eject everything, you're a food source. And they said, if you eject, go find a rock, put your back against the rock, pull out your pistol, and wait for the helicopter to come. And I thought they were kidding. I thought they were just like trying to make, well, the next day I go put on my flight gear and go down to the paraloft, and they were there issuing handgun. It was the first time I ever flew with a handgun in my survival kit, those 3 days doing those exercises over Darwin. But it's that's remote country up there.
It is. I can relate to that. We're a little bit tougher down there, so they didn't give us a 9mm, they just gave us a long knife. So from Alice Springs going across to the top part of Broome, it's about 400 nautical miles with nothing. And yeah, you got to take some water and a big knife. That's it.
Water and a big knife. You guys are tougher than us.
Always.
Always. That's right. Now, so HELIFLITE, you're a distributor, Robinson, but what else what are you doing across Australia?
So the other platforms we're looking at, as you're saying, David Smith and Robinson, we're working closely with them on some of the other directions they're heading into that vertical space. So they've acquired Ascent drone systems, and that's an area that we've got interest in as well. So we really want to be the market leaders from the 250 gram category all the way through up into, however big it wants to get, we're willing to get there.
Yeah. In the Australian market, VTOL, EVTOL has really taken off here. There's a lot of now entrants coming into Verticon. It's more than just helicopters now. What are you seeing in the Australian market as far as it comes to EVTOLs, VTOLs, more what we call XVTOL, that extended range VTOL that may be out to 800 miles from 100 to 800 miles. What are your thoughts on that?
That's the interest. That's the space we're most interested in, is that that longer range. Our urban dynamics and our the economic state of our cities is very different to the economic states of the USA. So what I mean by that is our wealth is more dispersed on a 500 nautical mile range rather than a 90-mile range. So an example of that be downtown LA. It can take you 3 hours to cross town. For us in Sydney, for example, with high net worth individuals, you can still get around most of the city within an hour. And all of that wealth is usually centralized to the CBD area, the central business district. So if you're one of those high net worth individuals that needs to travel a lot and your time's critical, you're most likely you're already within half an hour of your end destination.
If your destination is in the city.
If your destination is in the city. So like our urban air mobility market will take longer to mature. That's my decision.
Because there's not as much demand.
There's not as much
But that
demand.
regional is a little different.
That's much more interesting to us. So we understand that between the fixed wings and the helicopters, we can do most of the urban stuff already in the helicopter. But what we can't do well, or what we're looking to improve on, is getting the urban region-to-region connections and that end-to-end user, rather than at the moment we've got to potentially fly from, you've got to go from a location an hour out of Sydney down to the airport, jump a jet, go out to, say, Bathurst, Newcastle, Wollongong, and then go another half an hour to your destination.
What are the distances of those cities to Sydney?
Yeah, to give you a bit of comparison. So I'll talk in nautical miles to make it a bit more bit easier for our market. But you're looking anywhere from, say, as little as 100 nautical miles out to around the 400 nautical mile mark. So
okay.
And that's where we have a high concentration of mining sector, a lot of tech as well. So we want to try and connect a lot of those regional areas and those regional hubs with as little time in transit between each of them.
What is, for a helicopter, what is a range, 100, 200 miles? Like, where's the extent of, like, that starts to get a little uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Because of the speed and the time.
Particularly if you've got an executive on board, 200 nautical miles is a comfortable distance.
Okay.
If they're a bit more aviation savvy, 400 nautical miles of the fuel stop halfway, that type of thing, or some of those larger aircraft, you'll push out to sort of 350. But you've also got to think of the end user. And if we can bring that time, the distance.
Well, an XVTOL, most of them are 2 to 3x the speed of the average helicopter.
Exactly. That's where we see it.
And take off from the same place.
Yeah.
Or take off from their backyard, land in their backyard.
Yep, 100%. And we've got a lot of customers that are already doing that, but we just need that extra distance.
Yeah. Where do you think that market looks like over the next 3, 4, 5 years?
Well, we look tough. It's a tough one in terms of certification and test flying, but that's why we see great partnerships with companies like XTI, where we can see that they're working already on a platform that is going to be easier and quicker to certify.
Yeah.
And they're using current technology. That's the other area where I find I think there's a lot of disruptors, and I'm all for disruptors. I'm also for integrating current technology so that the end users can get those benefits sooner. I think all of the investment is great into this aviation space, and that's going to have a great trickle-down effect, if not now in 15 years' time. But I have to deal with the customers' issues today.
Yeah. Now, for you, if we bring it back a little bit too, it's the spring of 25. And if we were talking a year from now in the spring of 26, what are some big, stretch goals or things you guys are focused on in HELIFLITE in Australia over the next year?
Good question. So for us, our key business has always been Robinson products. As the R88 comes into that and the AW09, those are products that we've got alignment with. So those are all about speed, range, safety with new composite aircraft frames. So for us, it's about gearing up to make sure that we can support those extra airframes as well as servicing a broader customer community, because I think both of those airframes are going to bring users into the market that haven't been there before.
Yeah. Well, what's the adoption of just helicopter usage in Australia relative to other places? I would think just because of the distances and just the nature of the terrain, it's would be higher than most, but I'm just curious.
It is. We've got, our fleet's about 2,500 helicopters.
2,500 helicopters?
2,500 helicopters to a population of 26 million. I know in the US, I think our friends in New Zealand, which we also have a base, I think they're the highest per capita owners of aircraft. They're closer to more like 1,000 helicopters, but obviously a smaller population too.
Wow.
So we still see our segments growing at about 7% over the last couple of years. That might slide back to closer to 3%. But really, the aviation market, I think we're at a hockey stick point in the way the aviation world is starting to move.
Oh, what that hockey stick, that deflection up, what's gonna be the impetus there for you guys in Australia?
For us, it's access to products that are finally servicing the market. So we've got some legacy products, and they've been great. Robinson, 50 years of doing vertical lift. It's amazing. But they're now there's a lot of disruptors out there, and that is going to, the one thing I have noticed is on other projects that are out there at the moment, they're actually appealing to people that aren't in the aviation space. So there's an example of new helicopter airframes that are bringing out buyers who were maybe fringe. They were 50% interested in helicopters. Now they've seen new products, new airframe offerings, and they're the ones that are actually supporting the programs. So we're excited that our market, our total addressable market is expanding by at least 30%.
Wow. 30%.
Yeah.
That's significant.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to have you on and stay in touch as things develop. And I know our team is heading out to Avalon. So we'll see you there in Sydney, I believe, right? Or is it Melbourne?
Melbourne. So
Melbourne.
We've got a lot on display at Avalon. It's going to be busy. So I'd love to catch up with you there.
Yeah, I'm not going to make this trip, but I hope to be on the next one.
Perfect.
Because I love Australia. One of my favorite places.
Keep all those 9mm in back in the safety box.
I promise. All right. Great to meet you. Thanks for making the time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Great.